Donald Trump and the new first family getting ready for an evening of celebrations. The 3 inaugural balls set to begin just about an hour from now. We're going to have live pictures as soon as they start to come in for us. Meanwhile, thousands of protesters descended on the nation's capital today to send a message they weren't going away.
Not far from the inaugural parade, a limo erupted in flames, set on fire by those demonstrators, many chanting, "Not my president." Scripps national correspondent Todd Walker with photographer Isaac Blancas were in the middle of the chaos.
Several hours of peaceful protests have spiraled out of control. You can see behind me there's trash cans on fire in the middle of the street. Plenty of windows from cars and businesses have been broken out. Police and riot gear have moved in multiple times to try and get a handle on all this chaos. This is all happening just blocks away from the inaugural parade. It was clear from the beginning this group of protesters, dressed in all black, most of their faces covered, was going to be different. They didn't want to be photographed, and the destruction escalated.
So they were saying, take the streets, take the streets. So I followed them on, and then they started flipping stuff over, knocking over trash cans, and then they started breaking windows and stuff.
Came down this way and they cut through the park and they came over this way. Next thing you know, I started hearing a lot of booms and explosions.
I was running. I thought I saw somebody coming, so I stopped and went like that, and it was a brick. It was a brick, and it was huge, and they smashed that window. I was out of there.
People were trapped inside the Starbucks as windows were smashed out. Their terrified faces tell the whole story. Riot police moved in, scattering the group. Nearly 30,000 law enforcement and security officers from across the country had been brought in to protect today's inaugural ceremonies. Until this point, they had a fairly easy job. Protesters had remained peaceful. Activist groups had organized to be at every security checkpoint with the goal of disrupting Trump supporters heading into the National Mall for the inauguration. This was a different group, and others worry they have ruined the message of the peaceful protesters.
Our resistance is resistance! Our resistance is resistance!
The group's numbers have only grown throughout the afternoon. It's unclear when and how all of this will finally be brought back under control. In Washington, I'm Todd Walker. Back to you.
Todd, thanks. Right now, police say they've arrested at least 95 people in addition to what you just saw. At least 2 officers were hurt. Their injuries are minor, and several police vehicles were damaged. Back here in Arizona, anti-Trump protesters flooded the Capitol grounds. Between 200 to 300 people holding signs and chanting. While these protests were peaceful, there were some tense moments. 2 armed groups, one anti-Trump and then the other Trump supporters. They were arguing with each other at one point. That the state troopers had to stand in between them a couple of times to keep it peaceful. This was all happening as President Donald Trump was taking the oath of office. The protesters here hoping their message makes it all the way to Washington.
Let this administration know that we won't be tolerating anything that we see unjust, anything that we see is going to take away our rights, anything that we see is going to treat others as second-class citizens because of who they are.
By the way, these protests were over by 1 this afternoon.
Now, some Republicans in the West Valley have a message for those protesters, urging unity and patience. Many of them gathering today to celebrate the peaceful transition of power. The Now's Chris Groh has more from the GOP's Sun City headquarters.
Well, those words were uttered during Trump's inauguration speech, and the crowd went wild. These people are very excited to see what Donald Trump will do in his upcoming term as the 45th president of the United States of America, and they are very excited to see what will happen in the first 100 days. A lot of them mentioning those campaign promises that we heard so much about throughout the past year. But as some of them have told me, they are paying a close attention, but they feel like faith will make those promises come true.
Trump is his person because God chose him, and God's going to give him the power and the knowledge and the strength and the hope to carry on because it's from God.
At least Trump supporters also had a message to the people who may not still be on board. You'll hear that coming up at 5. Reporting in Sun City, Chris Groh, ABC 15.